Hello everyone, in this tutorial I'm going to teach you how to create something similar to Zhongli pillar from Genshin Impact. So let's get started. So if I press or tap the scale button, it spawns a pillar from the ground like this. But if I spawn the pillar at a place where it's not flat, the pillar is straight as it aligns the angle of the ground. Also, if I hold the scale button like this, it spawns a pillar and a shield at the same time. And this is what we will do later on. So by the end of the tutorial, the result will be something like this. So when I press the scale button just once or tap it, it spawns a pillar from the ground like this. And it disappeared. As you can see that the ground is not flat at all, and when I press the scale button again, see? As you can see that the pillar's rotation is aligned to the ground itself. Okay, so and if I hold the scale button like this, it creates a shell and spawn the pillar as well. So what we need for this tutorial is pretty simple. Just two meshes is already enough. One is for the pillar and the other one is for the shield. You have two ways to prepare for these two meshes is that either you create your own pillar and shield, or you can just create it by using the sphere and cube meshes from Unreal Engine. In this tutorial, the character that I'm going to use will be this third person character here, and I've named it as BP player. So just open it up. And click here. And the first thing that we are going to do is to create the whole and tap input system. But before we write anything here, we just need to create the input buttons for the system here. So just go to edit, project settings, and going down and find input under engine and actions. As for this, the name for the system, we will just put it as, well, we just type it as summon pillar. Although the thing that we are going to do is to create a whole and tap input system, but the purpose of it is to summon the pillar. So that's why I just name it as summon pillar instead. And I'll put it as, well, I'll just put it as Q button here, and that's it. After that, and save all. And the next thing is we just need to type summon pillars or any names that you have just named it. Name it from the input there, and compile it and save. So the next thing that we are create is to create a macro here for the systems. So create one thing here, and we just name it as whole press and underscore system. Or you can name it any names that you wanted, but the keyword will be the hold and press. And we need to create two sequence here and two gate as well. The reason for us to do two sequence and two gates is because that one side is to create for the whole button here, and the other one is for the press button here. But the main thing, but the priority will be the whole button here. So that's why we need to put a whole parts here at the top. So just connect with here and create another two inputs. Oops. Two inputs here, and one of it will be, okay, everything we'll just put it as asset. And the first one we will name it as press, second is release, Actually, the third one is not as the other one is called it that we just name it under the variable and name it as duration. The reason for that we need to put the float here is because that is the whole button duration. So that like if I hold it for 1 second, it executes something else. So and the next thing is we just then 0 here. Then 0 here, and then we need another things called retrievable delay here, and then connect with the duration here. Release not yet. Then 1 here. I think we haven't did this yet. Just connect. Oh, then 0 here, then 1 here. Completed. Enter. Okay, so this is the correct form from press to connect with the sequence, and then 0 connect with the delay here, and then complete. Once it's completed, we just enter the gate here. And the next thing is we just uses then 1 and then connect with the opens here. Okay, so once we when we are holding the buttons here, once we release it, then we just make the part go to the tab sequence here. So that's why we just put from then 0 to close. And the next thing is from then 1 to go to enter. Add pins here, then 2, connect with the opens here. And the next thing is we just need to create another sequence here. And then 0, and then connect with close from asset to here. Oops, disconnect for a while. Need to create another output here. That the upper part will be the hold, and the lower part will be press or tap. Anything you guys want to type it as. Then 1 is hold, and as it will be press. I think that's pretty much of it. Okay, now the reason why we need to press from press here is because that while we are holding the buttons, you will trigger the delay here. Depends on the duration that you want to put in the event graph here. So once one is completed, for example, if I set it as 1 second, you will enter the gate and then you execute something else. If I accidentally like release the button or tap the button, you will go from here to here, and then you will close the gate here, and then after that maybe from then 0 to jump to then 1 and then reach to this gate here. Okay, so compile and save, then go back to event graph, and then we just drag the macros here, and then we just go to press and then release. Just connect the press and release here. As for the duration, you can just set any times that you want, but in my case, I'll just set it as 1. Okay, so before we just proceed any further, we just need to test whether the macros works or not. So we just need to create two strings here. And one is under hold and under press. And let's see, okay, I'll just type it as hold, and the other one we just type it as press. Okay, so while I holding the button, after 1 second, whether you will see will print out as hold or not. So let's take a try. And when I hold Q, yep, it works. If I keep pressing Q, yep, the word will print up as press instead. So we like hold it like Q and then I accidentally release it, it's print up as press. So it works. And the next thing is we need okay, the next thing is actually we just delete the string because we have no need of it since it works. And the next thing that we need to do is to create the line trace for the characters. I mean, or you can just put it as to create the location where we spawn the pillars. Before we create the line trace, first we need to understand how the line trace works for the spawning the pillars. As you can see is that there's a wall here and there's a ground here. And the priority that we need to do is to spawn the pillars from the ground. As you can see that there's a blue line represent down and the red line represent front. So we need to think the possibilities that what if the characters here get too close to the wall? It makes the pillar will spawn from the wall, not on the ground. So that's why we need to create two kinds of line trace here. One is for the front here, and the other one is for the down, which is a priority here. So we need to think out of the possibilities that if the character didn't hit the ground, but instead it hits on the wall or some any kinds of obstacles that is directly right in front of the character or way too near to the character, which makes us that we can't spawn the pillars on the ground. Since we are creating the line trace for the hold and press, so the code gonna be very long. So that's why we need to create a functions here, and we just name it as line trace line trace function. We just temporarily name it as this way. And after that, search line trace by channel here, connect with it. As for the start positions, we need to know where the actor is in the level, and we just need to type get actor locations and then connect with it. And the next one is get actor forward vectors. Okay, as for the get actor location or get actor forward vector, it depends on whether you want to use a camera or the mesh itself. If you want to use the mesh itself, well, like this is already enough. But if it's camera, then you need to drag it here and then find the locations of the camera or the forward vector of the camera here. But since in this tutorial we are using the character itself, not the camera, so we just don't need this. And after that, we just need to multiply vector here. Oh no, a vector. Float here. And after that is plus vector plus vector. Then connect with this and here. As for the values here, it depends on, you can type any values that you want. So just go back into the pane. As for the value, we just means that the distance of the red line from a character here to here. So you can just use any values that you want. As in my case, I'll just set it as 250 because I think that is the appropriate distance from the character, because I'm going to make the pillar get so near to the character itself. And after that, just use type branch, connect with a line trace here, break the result. And the next things that we need to do is, okay, since we have already created for the red lines here, then the next thing is we need to create another line for the blue line. That means, as I said, for the down lines or z-axis line, you want to put in that way. So so that means is that when the red lines here hits something else like a wall or obstacles, that then it spawns the pillars here from true. But if it's not, if nothing is hit, then we just go to false and then just create another line trace by channel. As for the location, starting location, obviously we just put it from trace end. Go back to paint again because trace end is somewhere in the dot here. This is the trace end, so we just set it as the starting location of for the downline trace. As for the downline trace, you can just put it as, okay, this one we need to use minus vectors, and we just put it to n. And again, you can just remember x and y. We don't need that. Is the z axis that we need to focus. Just type it as. This is just a little reminder here. You don't need to put a comments here. Make sure you won't make any mistakes for modify the x and y axis here. As for that, I just put it as 200. 200 should be fine. Or you can change the values here like 300, 400. That depends on you. And after that, as usual, we just need to press branch. You connect with this, and quick hit result. Okay, we just temporarily just set it this way and see whether the line how the line looks like. But as for testing purposes, we just put it as for duration for both sides, and then we need to put print string. Print strings, and this one is put it as front. Copied it, paste here, and we just cut it as down. Compile and save, and back to event graph, and then we just not here. Put a line trace, create a line trace function here, and connect with it, and see how it goes, and play. Okay, maybe it's not way too obvious, but okay, I'll just put it here. As you can see that the line hits the ground when it's not hit the wall here. Priority is hit the ground first. See the line the word printed as down. If I get near to the wall here or any obstacle, we print it as front. And just one thing that you might have realized that since the down value that I set is 200, so what if I just stand somewhere else above 200, it will become like this. Nothing happens because that, as you can see here, that okay, maybe it's not obvious, so I'll just put it this way. As you can see that, okay, maybe just a bit brief that because that is way too high above 200 or more than 200. So even let's say if I just stand the distance somewhere here, even I press Q or hold Q here, the pillar won't spawn it because it didn't hit anything. Okay, so that's the end for this part of the tutorial, and the next part that we are going to make is to create the pillars and the shell, and to make sure that the pillar rotation and location is aligned, depends on where we spawn it. Well, that's all for it, and I'll see you in the next one.